podcast. My name is Megan. I'm the director of ministry here, and I've got a couple people around the table today. Do you guys want to introduce yourself?
Welcome to you if you're not listening to this in the morning. Maybe it's nighttime.
Sure.
Wherever you find yourself.
All inclusive.
Yeah, but we're in the morning.
Welcome.
Yes. I'm Pastor Bobby, pastor of kids ministry here at Pursuit.
PB, Pastor Bobby.
Yeah.
What did you think about that? I gotta come up with a cool nickname for you.
My youth pastor growing up was PJ, Pastor Jim.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then it leads to all kinds of other, like PB and J.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to go down that road.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest here.
It's fun. Too bad Dan's name doesn't start with a J, because then we
Yes.
could call you guys PB and J.
It's true.
I'm
Missed
Pastor-
out on that one.
I'm Mark. I'm just some blowhard that was added to the schedule here to fill time.
You're ridiculous.
Yes.
Thanks.
It has been a few weeks since we've been here with you.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I'm like still shaking the rust off a little bit. A few weeks ago, we were in Orlando, Florida. The weather looked a little different than it does out the window
Our
right
staff,
now.
Yep.
Yes.
But our staff was at the Exponential Church Planting Conference in Orlando, and it was fantastic. I just wanted us to share a little bit about what that time was, what we got from it, and, you know, just share with the people.
Yeah. Thanks,
Cool.
by the way, church, for investing in us,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sending us to Orlando in early March to
And praying us through that time. It was really
learn
incredible.
stuff. No one got sick.
Nope.
Thank you,
Nope.
Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've still somehow avoided the COVID for the entire thing.
Ninja.
I feel like I'm now challenging the...
New nickname, COVID Ninja.
I don't believe in
Yeah.
karma, but I'm now challenging the karma. So
You're ready to challenge
There it is.
karma if it exists.
I think maybe I had like a fortune cookie last week that said, hey, watch it.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Florida was really great. It was warmer, but you know, we didn't sit out by the pool at all, which
Yeah, we were pretty busy.
we were busy taking in really great speakers, having really great worship, and learning some things. I really enjoyed, you know, because of COVID, it'd been so long since you could really have like corporate worship, like tons
On
of
that scale,
people singing, worshiping God, just really hungry for following Him. So that was just really cool. The emphasis of the conference was empowered. So it was all about being empowered by the Holy Spirit and moving in that. So they did a little bit of extra teaching on that, or hands-on activities, I guess, exercises. So that was encouraging.
those moments were amazing.
They were. The Spirit was really there. And for some people, that was a little much. But for others, just jumped right into it. So it was really great just to hear from God and be ministered to in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a non-denominational conference.
Yep.
So we had people from all across the spectrum. So yeah, you definitely could see the like more conservative Baptists were a little bit uncomfortable.
Yep. And then the Pentecostals down in the front.
Yeah,
it was great.
They were going for it.
Some people are listening to this are like, what is a Pentecostal? And why do Baptists act a certain way?
That's a
fine.
podcast for
We
another
don't
day.
have
we
to
could.
explain it
You
all.
can ask us later.
But yeah, it was really cool to see, even within our group that we went with from the Midwest here, there were varying degrees of comfortability, but I felt like everybody kind of leaned in a little bit. Some more than others, but like everybody tried
Yep.
and put a little effort in. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
It was really great for me. Mark says this about church planting stuff all the time. Like you put him in a room of church planters and he's like with his people and he just gets jazzed.
Yes.
I also
They're my tribe.
they're your tribe.
Ooh.
Okay, I'll get the lingo right. I got to sit in a room of my people who were like the executive pastors, a little bit more organized, a little bit more systematic. And that
Talk
was
about spreadsheets.
yeah, it was real cool. Like 10 minutes into the room, I was like, oh, I found them. I found my people.
I'm not weird.
And I got connected with a network of all women executive pastors, which is just even
That's
more
really
cool. And then just on a private or like personally, I got to run into some missionaries that I worked with in 2011 that I now only see at this conference. They live in South Carolina, so it was really cool to just like randomly run into them and be like, oh, my brain doesn't know what to do right now because you're not in southern Mexico. You're here in Florida, and this is a different thing. But it was really fun. Mark, what about you?
Yeah.
The conference is never about the conference to me. I mean, I enjoy it. It's great. I actually got a really good illustration that I'm going to use on Easter Sunday that'll make everybody cry. It'll be amazing.
Ooh, all right. Waterproof mascara.
However,
Challenge accepted. Bring it on.
everything that I learn, I don't know how this sounds. This is going to sound super pretentious, but it's like everything I learn is not anything new. Mm-hmm. It's like reminding me of something that, you know, at this point in my ministry career. And there were definitely some seminars I went to that were a hot mess and not worth my time. And the main sessions were all amazing, but like not necessarily applicable to being a church planter in Minnesota. Like some of them were, you know, they were fine. But to me, the thing is like we got a night where we hung out with all the Converge Northeast, North Central pastors. That was like,
that's right.
I went back.
Yeah, you went back a few years.
So, and there's probably 40, 50 people that we had dinner with and just spent time hanging out with. And to me, like that's the thing. And then also staying in the house with 14 other people, to me, again, there's always a conversation to be had. There's always something to be learned from practical people who are in the region who are doing similar things. So talking to some of the Iowa church planters, one of our churches is sponsoring a new church plant in Omaha. So just talking to people that are doing it, and then also them being like, tell me how you did this. What about that? What about this?
Yeah, it was really fun to have the like new church planners who haven't started yet, the ones that like have just started and gotten their feet wet, and then the ones who have been doing this for like 10, 15 years. And just be able to share that like wisdom and have that hangout time. I really enjoyed that as well.
Yeah, so to me, that's the thing. That's really the thing. And it's like, if I could recreate that here, I wouldn't have to go to Orlando, but it's great to be able to go to Orlando and do it. So
we get to suffer for Jesus for a little bit at the beginning of March in the warm weather of Orlando.
Wear flip-flops and no coats.
But yeah, I appreciate how much we pack into those 3.5 days to really just get the most out of it and spend that time with people.
Yeah.
And it's, as somebody who is always behind the tech table, it's really nice to like go to a worship service.
Do nothing.
And I'm not in charge of like making it work.
Yes.
And I can just like sit and enjoy and worship and turn that part of my brain off.
This is why I still have told nobody at this church that I can run sound. Because I never want to run sound for anything.
Well, you just told everyone.
Yeah, well.
I already know.
I've been doing it since I was like 13 years old.
Yes, you have. I figured you knew how.
But I actually did all the tech one a year or two ago for a funeral. So ran everything. Ran the sound, ran the projection and everything. And it was like,
remember that.
Oh, I kind of like this. And I was like, wait, no, don't do this. Like
you kind of like it once every 6 months.
It was fun. I did a lot.
Yeah.
And I did way more than they expected me to. Afterwards, they were like, that was really great. Like, those transitions were amazing. Like, everything sounded amazing. I'm like, well, you know.
Although I will say, there were times in worship where it was so loud that, like, my head hurt. Oh. There were, like, a few little reverb things. So I love Pursuit and the way that we do worship.
Funny.
And that's not always my cup of tea, but...
As a sound guy, there's always somebody who'll complain about whatever you do.
Every time.
You just got to do your best.
Yep, every time.
I'm not complaining to the people who did it.
Yeah, I'm sure some people did.
Probably.
I'm sure. I won't be that person.
Probably.
Okay. So this week, Pastor Aaron is on vacation, so he is enjoying time with his family in Utah.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Zion National Park.
That's right. That's where they were. They've been sending pictures. It's super cute.
They are.
So hopefully Pastor Aaron will be back with us next week. But this past Sunday, because Mark is still recovering from his foot surgery, we had Pastor Caitlyn Stenerson from Bethel with us preaching our First John series through the second half of chapter 3. So, Mark, as somebody who would normally be the one preaching, you want to give any feedback for Caitlyn?
Yeah, what can I say about Caitlyn? I mean, we purposefully invited her to come speak at our church because she's amazing.
She's fantastic.
And people don't realize this. She's, like, I don't even want to mention the fact that she's super young.
Yeah.
And talented and incredible. And I think, like, we only get to have her come preach at our church now because she hasn't like fully blossomed into her, like she'll be like writing books and
Yeah.
preaching at
Oh.
mega
We're
churches.
gonna say, remember when?
Yes, right. We're gonna be like,
We knew her before.
and she's like headlining the Her conference
Yes.
or what,
I
I don't
mean,
know.
yes.
Some
Who
sort of,
knows? She'll be at Exponential
Yes.
speaking one of the main
Right.
sessions in a few years.
It's true.
And also, I like having relationships with people that I think could someday plant a church. And I think she's going to be a great church planter if she decides to go in that direction.
Shout out to Caitlyn. Give us a call when you're ready.
I'm sure
Or
there'll
this
be,
week.
There'll be 20 churches lined up.
That's
to
right.
help her out.
I'll be one of 20.
It's true.
But she's amazing, and she obviously has a pastor's heart on top of this. Like sometimes you get a speaker in, and it's just like, it's like somebody who runs a ministry, or it's like somebody who's in maybe youth ministry or something, and you don't catch a heart for the church and a heart for people the way I felt like I catch it with Caitlyn.
Yeah.
And the way she talked about the way the church should operate, the way she talked about her disappointment in the way the church handled the last year or two, I feel so deeply. I was like amening from my couch.
Yeah.
Loudly?
Carefully. Because I was still on some leg pain.
Yeah, you don't want to hurt yourself.
Let's not move that too much. But yeah, like that definitely has a pastor's heart. And I know she works at Bethel and she's pastoring students there, but she also comes out of the church. She's also a graduate at Bethel from their seminary.
Yep.
And so just somebody who I trust as a pastor. Like this is a person who's also a pastor. Like
Yeah.
she has that same
Yeah.
viewpoint. So I think everything that she brought about, this is like actually kind of the key passage of all of 1 John. And when I was originally setting this up, remember I talked about how I kind of had to squeeze 2 or 3 sermons together to kind of like get us to this point. I kind of teed up the last 2 weeks to be the easiest sermons possible to hand off to someone. So Aaron's, how much easier does it get than preaching on, see what great love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God, and that is what we are. The reason the world does not know us is that it did not know him. Like any pastor can talk for days about that, right?
Yeah.
And then to go into the second half of chapter 3 and allow Caitlyn to kind of basically hit it home, right? The idea that, if we obey, if we are doing the things that God has called us to do, then we know we're good. And I think she brought that question to the forefront of like, how do you know?
Yeah.
How do you know you know? Like, how are you sure
Yeah.
your salvation is assured?
Yep.
And, if you're asking me, maybe this is the question, I don't know if this is the question you're asking me or not, but what I would have maybe did differently or hit on differently, that question is haunting to a lot of people. Like, how do I know?
Yeah.
Jesus gives a stern warning to people who like say, hey, we followed Jesus. We, delivered people in his name. We cast out demons in his name. And he basically says to them, I don't know who you are. That should shake every disciple to say like, am I in Christ? How do I know?
Yeah.
Right. And she hit that hard, but I think there's a conversation to go with that, which kind of, and I think it will come out in the next couple of weeks. It'll be part of the overall conversation. But like the tension that we have between grace, which is unmerited favor, right? It's just God saying you're good enough because you're good enough. You're good enough because I say so. You're good enough because I created you. You're good enough because you're my son or my daughter. You're good enough. And then the sort of the tough teaching of James and John and Paul, who say, you're definitely good enough. Grace is awesome. But are you good enough if you got nothing happening in your life?
Yep.
And it's like, I feel that tension. Like, and coming from a youth ministry world,
Yeah.
that was the main question we probably got from teenagers.
All the time.
Yeah.
I felt like it was every teenager was like, she shared a story like that too. In
Yep.
her sermon.
Yeah.
Every teenager's like, am I in? Did I do this right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that tension is a conversation to be had, and I think there are, how do we solve that tension? How do we have that conversation with people without, shaking someone's authentic faith? Like, I don't want someone who has an authentic faith to be questioning their faith in an unhealthy way, but I also want the person whose faith is not authentic to really question it.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a hard tension.
Is it a tension to solve though? Or is it a tension to sit in.
Yeah. I think when I use the word tension, I'm always in that camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you just said attention to self.
And and I think too, like this comes back to who you're talking to and who's sitting in front of you and the community, you know, having a small group or having people to be like, okay, I have this faith and am I doing enough? Or I need to recognize that I have done enough and I just need to accept that because that's different for every person. And I think sometimes you can get in different seasons in your life.
Yeah.
Of like,
For sure.
you know, sitting back and just kind of skating through and you need to be pushed a little bit and motivated to do a little bit more, to make sure that you're stepping out for Christ, right? And then there's times where you're stepping out too much and you need to back up a little bit and just remember that it's not about works. It's not about providing something for God. Like it's about just worshiping him. So it really kind of comes down to where each person is.
Yeah, I think that community point is so key. We can't do this alone. We were never meant to.
No. Sometimes you need that person to tell you, to kick you in the butt. You know, that person, your person that you call and you're like, okay, am I crazy? Tell me the truth. And they kick you and it hurts and you're like, I love you. Thank you.
Okay. That's what I asked for.
That's where I
Not
needed
me.
that. No.
I'm like, screw you. And they're like, you asked me for this. I know, but you didn't have to be honest.
Still hurts.
Yeah. What's crazy makes you crazy as a pastor is when you preach this message and the person that you know already is taking this tension so seriously is the one that is, you know, has the doubt. And the one who, you know, is like really far from getting this right is the one who's like, I'm good. Things are great. And you're like, how did I somehow, what did I say that like moved this one person who I'm not trying to get them to question their faith. They're amazing.
Yeah.
And this other person who's a big lazy lump of, you know, on a log. Just going to say that so I don't say anything incorrect. Like, they're the ones that need the kick in the pants, and they're like, nah, we're good.
Is there ever a small piece of you that's like, you and you guys can go, like, you're good for today, like, you guys come move a few more
Just
chairs
call them out
closer.
by
Like,
name. Yeah,
come up to the front row.
I want you guys to sit in the front row.
Pay
You need to hear
close
this.
attention.
Yeah.
A little piece of you.
I had like a good 20-minute conversation after, I don't know, one of these weeks that we did here where that was the exact thing. It was like the person who I'm like, man, this guy's got it. He's got it figured out. Like he's both living this thing and has understands it's unmerited.
Yeah.
And is just managing the tension, like could teach a class on and he's, you know, how do you, I'm not really sure. And, you know, and I'm just like, look, I didn't want you to question it.
Yeah.
But
Gold star, bud, you're good.
But John seems to be really challenging, you know, and we know the context. We know there's a lot of division and people are not sure what to believe. There's actually times where it's really hard for me to preach it because unless you have really healthy leaders, what he's saying is very unhealthy. Because he's like, how do you know that you're in? You're in if you're with us. You're in if you believe the right stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, like that actual message, if it's coming from a really healthy leader, is pointing back to God's word and to you know, the theologically
Jesus, the way he lived his life.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if it's that message can come from an unhealthy person, it can go, hey, you're in if you're with us, and you're in if you're like us, and you're in if you believe the right stuff, and then the stuff they believe is lame, and the stuff that they are doing is lame, and the stuff like, so it can be like twisted. But that's what John, I mean, he's about to say in chapter 4 too. He's like, how do you know between the spirit of the Antichrist and the spirit and the actual Holy Spirit? He's like, well, you know, they're with us.
And this is why so many churches we can see them going wrong.
Yes.
Like when you hear about something terrible that happened, you're like, how did that happen? Like how did an entire church just like let that happen? It's like, well, part of the Bible tells you to trust your pastor. Yeah. So you did.
Yeah.
And they didn't do their job.
Yeah, I would even make the case that that's maybe more our doing. The Bible tells us not to trust the pastor. In fact, Paul says, don't trust yourself.
Yeah.
Paul's like, do not trust your own heart.
It's
is evil
bad.
above all other things.
It'll lead you astray.
Yeah. It's like, put your faith in the word. Put your faith in Jesus' example, because he's actually showing us how to live this whole thing. If you're trying to figure out how the law looks and you don't see it in Christ, you're wrong. Like, he's the picture of the law. So you're like, how does this law apply? It applies in the practices of Jesus. And then the word is supposed to further illuminate that relationship with God and through Christ. And if it doesn't align with those things, your pastor could be the most charismatic person in the world, but
It doesn't
we've
matter.
learned the lesson. Don't allow the most charismatic person in the world to lead you to a place that the Bible doesn't take it and Jesus doesn't take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this points out our human nature, or our fall, our sin nature. Like, I mean, even the Israelites, God's like, I'll lead you. And they're like, no, we want someone to lead us. And he's
Give
like,
us a
no,
king."
I got it. Okay. And they're like, no, give us a king. We want to follow someone. And so it's just always that tension of, we want someone in front of us. And then that gives rise to celebrity culture and just all of that stuff. And we just, comes back to idol worship, just all of that. Like, this is where we always fall back. And it's not ideal, and it's not, I just love how John and Paul, and you point that out, like, it's different. Like, Paul's like, well, don't trust your heart. And John's like, well, just follow and trust your heart. It's like, well, which one is it?
He literally
which
says,
one is it?
John at the end of this says, yeah, dear friends, if our hearts do not condemn us, we have confidence before God. And Paul's like, don't trust your heart. Like,
It's the worst.
so it's like, wait, if my heart doesn't condemn me, does that mean I'm good? Well, sometimes.
Yeah.
I need a drink.
Yeah. Go for it. Ooh.
Oh. It's early, but gotta get started at some point.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, to me, that tension is I honestly want to be confident in my relationship with Christ and think there is nothing else I need to do to be justified, which is true scripturally. That the minute you yield to Christ and that you give your life to him, that you submit to his kingship, his lordship in your life, then you are saved and you are justified. In that moment, you've received his sacrifice for your sin, and you are now justified in front of God. But that's definitely not the end of it. And that's when people who sit in that place are, who the authors, I think it's C.S. Lewis who talks about, like, cheap grace. They're the kind of people that it's cheap grace. It's the fire insurance. It's the just in case handle.
Yeah.
I better just take, just maybe because. And this is where I think certain things steer us wrong. Boy, I'm probably going to butcher this, but I think it's Pascal who says there's like a pretty easy matrix to decide whether you should accept Jesus or not. And he talks about, like, well, if I'm wrong and I accept Jesus, I still live a great life in this world. And, and what have I really lost? And if you're wrong, oh, and by the way, I get heaven. And if you're wrong and you don't accept Jesus, you live a life, who knows how it goes here in this world. I would say that your life is diminished if you don't know Christ in this world. So you live a less amazing life now, and you still don't get heaven. So he talks about this idea that, like, there's only a few potential options that you can choose, and why wouldn't you just choose Jesus just in case? And, like, it's a good thought exercise or proof for people who like to do apologetics and just sort of thought exercises. But, like, that's a terrible reason to accept Jesus, like, just in case. Well, in case I'm wrong, I might as well yield to Christ.
Yeah.
But they don't really. That's not really yielding to Christ.
I was gonna say, is that actually yielding?
No.
No.
So it's those kind of things that drive me nuts. And by the way, I hope I got that right. Maybe that's not Pascal. I think it is Pascal. But
I've heard it before. I don't know who to quote it to.
I think he's also the guy who talks about the God-shaped hole, which is actually is in the writing of Solomon. It's in one of those books Solomon wrote.
Psalms?
Nope.
Oh.
Yep.
Scriptural?
Yep.
Proverbs?
Nope.
Okay. Song of Songs?
The one he's famous for. Not that one. My brain is...
Lamentations?
Gold star to anyone who
Listen.
can text Mark with the name of this book.
Yo, listen. I've been on some meds the last couple weeks, so my brain is not quite firing on all
Trying to think of
That's
all
right.
the
It's
poetry
just
books.
cylinders.
It's just a...
No, it's wisdom literature.
The wisdom one?
Yeah.
It's a quiz for people.
Why is my brain not being able to think of this? Give me
You
a
have
Alright.
second.
technology at
I'm
your
just gonna stop
fingertips, bro.
I'm
guessing.
awful.
Here.
I'm a horrible human being. Ecclesiastes.
There it is.
Sorry.
That was probably
Everything
my
is
next one.
everything is meaningless. But he talks about
yes.
the God-shaped hole.
Yeah.
That I think of Pascal. That's a complete side thing. But I think like okay, so she brought up the how do you know, and that's a question we should all ask.
Yeah.
How do you know? And like the easy answer is belief in the right theology, understanding justification, meaning I am just now in front of God, that I do not, serve a sentence that has been taken care of. I do not pay a penalty anymore for something that's been paid for. That yes, I'm still guilty, but it's Christ now who has paid that price, and now I stand in front of the court being just. I've paid, the transaction has been made. So that's essentially, we can step back and say, as long as I've accepted Jesus' sacrifice and made him the Lord of my life, then I'm justified. But that is the beginning of a life that should look way different than, if you had not made that decision. And the problem that I see, and I'm sure this is Caitlyn's angst as well as she's talking through this, is just there's a lot of people out there who are just perfectly happy with that and only that. Just the grace. They don't have the works. There is no love for brother, love for one another. There is no, there is no any discipline in their relationship with God. There is no, sacrifice being made for the church. It's like, what do we, we're saying we're a disciple of Jesus. Okay. How are you a disciple for Jesus?
Yeah.
List the reasons that your life is different now because you're a disciple for Jesus. Like for some people, it's a very short list. They don't give anywhere. They don't serve anywhere.
Yeah.
They're kind of not really part of a community. They're kind of really not giving anything of themselves to anyone else. Like they're essentially what I would call like a narcissist Christian. Essentially, I'm here for what this gives me. It's an intellectual thought exercise. And in some cases, I'm doing it just in case. And in other cases, I'm fooling myself into thinking that I'm in when I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's why our churches now don't look like the first church. I mean, Caitlyn talked about that at the beginning of her sermon. It's like, wouldn't it be great if we looked like a community that supported each other and sacrificially gave for one another in everything? That's not what our churches look like because we haven't taken that second step.
Yeah.
Beyond just
And by the way, this is like
cheap
the
grace.
state of the bigger church.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Big C church here.
Right?
Yeah.
I love our church. Our people are, showing up for each other all over the place.
Yes.
They are.
I had somebody come over to my house and, cook for us the other night. There's somebody going to my house today to clean it.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm hobbling around on one leg and Marty threw her back out. And, somebody said, hey, I can make you a meal, or I can come over and clean your house, or I can come over. And she's like, well, I guess if you want to clean, that's fine. I can't even move, and my husband can't move. And we're just like.
I talked to a couple on Sunday that was like, and I was like, yeah, Mark and Marty really wanted to be here, but Marty hurt her back. And they were like, we were thinking about making them food. That's the word to actually do it. Thank you. I was like, you go.
Yeah, it was great. That's probably the people who were talking about. I'm gonna be honest. One of the best meals we've ever had from somebody who came and dropped off meal, but they came over and cooked.
Yeah.
Well, that makes it better.
We hung
right?
out for a while.
Yeah.
Because I'm just sitting there in a stupid chair.
Yeah.
It's like I'm bored.
But yeah.
Crazy.
So-
Yeah.
Pursuit, we love you. You're great.
Seriously. And I had one small group leader tell me, yeah, my small group's getting a little antsy. Like, we need a project or something to do for somebody. And I was like telling them about another opportunity where they could help a family who's we're struggling with like a very special needs situation for their like 24/7 care for their kid. And I was like, well, these people have some ideas up on how to serve them. Why don't you guys go pick some of these?
Yeah.
And they were going to do some meals for Quincy, and they were going to do some. I mean, so our church is good at this, I
Yes.
think.
Yeah.
But we're small.
Yep.
We don't have a lot of extra people on the sidelines who aren't like fully invested, you know. And I don't want to like also play to our ego. It's still a tension we got to manage. Like
Yep.
we don't have it perfect.
Yes. No.
We haven't arrived.
We are not perfect.
Right. But our church excels in showing up for one another and caring for one
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like in the grand scheme, we understand that love is a verb. And we got to do some action.
another. So I love it.
I sit and think about the people that maybe are like, they know that they need to give more, but they're just in that survival mode. And this isn't to guilt anyone if you know that you're in a spot in your life where you're like, I just need to sit back. And there is something scriptural, I think, and biblical about sitting back and receiving help. Like, there
Yeah.
is something that you're allowing the community to do when they serve you, because it also changes the giver, right? It also changes who they are and what worth they have brought, and it speaks into their gifts and their blessing of others, because Christ got to work through them, and that empowers them so much more. So like, if you're at a spot where you can't give because you're just emotionally tired, life is hard, all of this stuff, I mean, COVID, I don't need to go further into that, right? Like, you can accept help from people, and that's doing just as much for the community as actually making someone a dinner.
Yeah.
Like, and I think we forget that sometimes, because I
Yeah.
think, well, no, I'm not doing enough, but actually you're allowing God to work into someone's life and blesses you.
Yep.
Like, it's double.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Scriptures say the first church loved one another and took care of one another, not just other people outside of their group.
Yeah.
Which means that somebody within their group had to be the receivers.
It's true.
Like, somebody had to be needy.
Don't forget the receivers. Yeah.
It's hard.
It is hard,
I don't
isn't
like
it?
it.
It makes you
I
feel
don't like
uncomfortable. You're like, no.
Yeah.
I like to help people. Like, that's what motivates me. I want to
Yeah.
but it is hard when someone's like, no, I want to do this for you. And you're like, but I'm capable. I'm strong. I can do this.
I'm the
even
one
though
that
life
shows
might-"
up for others.
Exactly.
Whatever.
But I think it helps energize us the next time to show up for somebody else,
Yeah.
because they did it for you.
Yeah.
And then the next time they need something, you're like, I had this thing that I probably should have done, but like, I'm going to stop that and show up for you because you showed up for me.
Yep.
And it just, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
How's that going, accepting help?
I mean, it's going okay. Like, I had
You
some
can do it.
delicious food on Monday.
See, that's all you can do, right?
Yeah.
Eat the delicious food.
Somebody's helping us clean up today. We're having a small group over tomorrow, so it's like, you got to clean the bathroom and
Yeah,
make
yeah.
sure everything, the floors are polished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe not polished. I was telling Caitlyn on
But no
Sunday.
dirty underwear on the floor. I mean, come on. We have limits.
Yeah, not in the living room. I was telling Caitlyn on Sunday just kind of some of the things our staff has been through in the last 6 months health-wise. And she was like, man, y'all have been through the ringer. And I was like, yes. Yes, we have.
But the Lord is good.
But God is good, and our community is so sweet to be able to come around and support us in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a little or maybe a lot of PTSD from it. I'm just thankful I didn't get COVID. Thank you, Jesus. And now it'd be fine. 'Cause I'm beyond the surgeries and everything. Like, I don't think it'll kill me.
We'll just keep praying that you don't
Yeah.
get it.
Although
Because
I
let's just
am
go
kind of
with
the
it.
profile of who it loves to kill. So
Let's just, you can keep your COVID ninja title.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
no one's ever called me a ninja. Sneaky and quiet is not.
You're not stealthy.
No.
You gotta wait till you get out of the boot. There's no way you can be quiet in
In
that
the
thing.
boot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, you need a different car because I can hear you coming down the block.
Yeah.
All
So,
right,
so yeah, I was just gonna say. So to me, that tension is the one that I think is the big tension, and I don't think there's a solution for that tension. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
I want to always be asking, "Am I in the faith?" And I want to always be honest, and that does lead to another whole side conversation about like whether we're actually being honest with ourselves. There's a whole generation of people who like self-awareness is like the worst thing they do.
Yeah.
right? Like I would say millennial and Z are often completely unaware of themselves. And
Yeah.
in some regard, I've even thought about this in my own like life, the struggle of that, where I would have said there are times in my life where I was complete like blind spots everywhere. All these things were blind spots because I just would always think the best, and
Yeah.
I would judge myself the best, and like give myself whatever. And it's like, no, there were glaring weaknesses that I need to work on and change and things to do. I do think some of that comes with maturity. So I don't want to like beat up young people, but I want to say they're doing it worse than any generation ever. So that's my impression.
I feel we, as a millennial, I feel like I can speak into this a little bit. We grew up with parents who were like, be confident. And we're like, okay.
You can do anything you want.
Yeah. But it's like, no,
Except
no, no.
you can't.
Be confident, but know your weaknesses. Like,
I think it comes down to like your heart, like just having an open heart to hear where
Yeah.
you can grow or change,
Yeah.
and that the people that you've pulled in around you actually want you to be the best version of yourself. So they're not tearing you down. They're just maybe pointing out some areas that you need to be aware of. Because that's what, like, you can still, you know, think you're really great. But when you lead, you just have to have that open heart of like, oh, I don't have all the answers, but I know that I can listen and learn, and we can figure this out together.
The sooner you figure out, like, I am nothing outside of Jesus,
Amen.
the humility of that, that is like a key moment in every person's life. Like, holy cow, the quicker you can get there. And some of us have fallen so hard and hit so many stairs on the way down that like it's a pretty easy
Realization.
All right,
Yep.
well, here's where we're at.
well, that didn't work.
We're sitting in the mud. Yep.
But if you're like a capable person, I'm talking about other people because I've learned this lesson by 41. If you're like a capable person and you like everything you do in your life seems like a little blessed, and you just kind of are doing your thing, and you can get like a big head, and you can kind of start to think like, maybe I am God's gift to whatever, this, that, or the other thing.
Might be a big deal.
Oh.
And it's like the sooner you figure out and are self-aware
Yeah.
and just like see your issues, and don't I think a lot of people want to sort of beat themselves up over those things. It's like, no, like self-awareness is important so that you can put yourself in positions to be successful and to win, right? Like, so, but when it comes to our spiritual lives, I think there's a lot of people who have they're completely not self-aware, unaware of themselves, and don't judge themselves fairly, and it's like, how would someone who knows you best judge you on some of these things? Like when they do those, I hate these the most, when they do the 360 review.
Yeah.
And everybody who's ever had one is cringing right now because it's like that's the perfect time for somebody to like grind an axe against
For people
them.
who don't know what they are, quick recap. What is a 360 review?
It's when you ask for feedback on yourself and your performance from all around you, people above you, below you, who you work with, and you ask from everybody that you work with just to give you honest feedback. And a lot of times it's anonymous.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Which then makes it honest, but also brutal.
Yeah.
And sometimes you look at that and you're like, my first review, this is just like one of those stories that like I can't, like you're not gonna know. You're gonna think like, what? This was you at that time? So I was like 20. My first real job out of college. I was a little older when I graduated college. So I was youth pastor first year. I think we are killing this thing. Youth ministry goes from like 20, 25 kids to like 40, 50 kids, like almost overnight when I come to town. And in Connecticut, there's not a lot of like churches anywhere. So this is in Connecticut. Boy, would I love to shout out this pastor. He's just a gem. But I won't.
Showing that maturity.
Yeah. Of course, anyone can dig and find it. I come I've spent a whole year doing youth ministry. It's my first year out of college. I think I'm God's gift to youth ministry. I have doubled my youth ministry. What you don't know about Connecticut is that there are no churches. You have to go sometimes 20, 25 minutes to get to a decent church.
Yeah.
So all I was doing was just collecting all the Christian kids within like a 20-mile radius into one group. And it really wasn't that special. Like I wasn't doing anything that special. It was just like something exciting going on in the area.
Yeah.
But of course, no one could tell me that. I was kicking butt. I am the God's gift to youth ministry, and I'm doing it right, and nobody else is doing it right.
Obviously.
And get to my first review.
I can't imagine that personality out of you at all.
Yeah. So my managing pastor, who's in charge of doing my review, is like the most anal retentive, type A. He's like an executive for like a CEO type kind of guy, and he's like he wears a collared shirt every single day. You know, he would tell you like, oh, we're real relaxed at this church because I don't wear a tie on Sundays. Like, he's just one of these people, and he's a marathoner. You know what I mean? You know who I'm talking about. Like, these guys are marathon. He was a marathoner. Like, he ran like 20 miles a day. Like, he's just, everything in his life is methodical. It's like thought out. And here I am, just like, you know, like
flying by the seat of your pants.
Figuring stuff out, writing my lessons for youth group like 3 hours before youth group. Yeah. Like, you know, we're having an amazing time. Things are going great, but like, I have the weakest youth staff. Like, my team of people around me, I don't need anyone else. It's just me and Marty. It's all we need. And like, we had like one other person who like was just kind of there. And so it's like, it's the two of us for like 40, 50 kids.
Somehow I know this guy.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is amazing. I'm going to go into this review and dominate. He's going to be like, you really changed this church. These 40, all these new families that have come, and, you know, the financial situation has turned around, and, you know, I think you need to preach more. Like, I'm thinking this is what my review is going to be.
Naturally.
And he sits down and he has this like, just a yellow
legal pad. Let me guess, he's writing on a legal pad.
Yes, 100%. Okay. I will never forget this. He's got that pen that he, you know, like changes the cartridges in, because he's one of those people.
Yes.
And he says, all right, let's get started. And he flips open his like portfolio thing with his legal pad in there, and it is 2 pages of offenses of stuff that he doesn't like about. And it's like day and time, like,
ooh, records.
You showed up at this time to work. You did this thing. You said this thing to this person. And I'm brash. I say a lot of things. I don't know. Like, at that time in my life, think about me like with less control or filter. And he just starts going bam, down, boom, 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 boom. Like 20 on the first page. He gets halfway through the second page, and I just start weeping. So I don't know how bad your first review was at your first real job, but I guarantee you it wasn't as bad as my first review at my first real job. I wept. He didn't know what to do. He had no caring bone in his body. Like, he's a robot, and still is a robot. And
those executive pastors.
Yeah. Well,
hey, now.
He was an executive church planter, essentially, is what he was. He was an executive pastor planting a church, which is now successful, and maybe he's different. I don't know. It's possible. I haven't really talked to him in like 15 years. He can't be as bad as he was then. And but yeah, like, I was overwhelmed. I thought, I'm crushing this. This is going to be amazing. And then
that hard truth hit you in the face.
I wept. And he didn't know what to do. And I remember, like, he just kind of like was like, well, he kind of closed the book. He's just kind of looking at me. And I'm like trying to, through tears, explain that that's not what I thought you were going to say. And he just kind of like gets up and
leaves.
That's the end of it. And I remember like the secretary, who's this amazing bleeding heart kind of, you know, just like mercy filled, loving person, who came in, brought some tissues. No. She's like, it's okay. You're fine. You didn't get fired.
Might as well have.
So, I feel like there's a lot of people like that. Like, they're just unaware.
Yeah.
Like, they just think things are awesome, and they're just not really willing to like take a look at it, be honest about it, assess it properly. Like, there's a day coming where they're going to really see what their life has added up to, and they're going to weep. And I would rather it not hit you like a ton of bricks than for you to be the one to sit down and go, you know, hey, man, I'm lacking in this area. I'm weak here. I haven't done anything around this. This isn't lining up with who Jesus is. This habit I have, I got to break. The way I talk, it's got to change. The way I raise my kids got to change. The way I use my finances I need to look at that. The way I use my time needs to look differently. Like, I need to care more about people. I need to be checking in with certain people that I know I'm called to care for. Like, there's a whole lot of stuff on this list of things that says I'm not a disciple. I know I am, but I know I have a long way to go.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest about it.
I think if you sit down and like take that stock, and you start just feeling, super inadequate. I'm always reminded of the verse in Psalms or Proverbs, I can't remember which now, but like that says like that the Lord's going to give you the desires of your heart, right? The amazing, mysterious thing that happens when you're in relationship with God is the more that you seek him and the more that you follow him and the more that you involve him in your life, prayer, and you're honest with him about things, the more your heart is transformed to become like his. So then, of course, the desires are going to be transformed. And that's the only way to see some of these lists of things change, right? Is to actually just be honest with this list and then say, okay, I'm going to pray about these and I'm going to invite God into them so that your heart can be changed. And then it will be something that God honors because it's in line with him, right? Because he's already working in it. So if you just feel overwhelmed with taking this stock or of recognizing like, hey, I'm really missing it in all these areas, like the first thing to do is to just invite God in it and take some of the smallest ones and check them off the list first, like work on those, or take the really big one if you like to like take large bites out of the oven and conquer them, right? And then inviting friends in to pray for you about it, or meet and discuss it, or any of that stuff. Like I have a friend who I literally will just text and be like, hey, this is happening. I just need you to pray this week for me about this. And that's, we talk about other things, but that's kind of mostly the extent of our relationship. And I just know that she's going to be praying for me. And I do the same for her. Like I've invited someone else into it. So like the more that you invite and seek Christ and involve your community in it, it's not going to feel overwhelming. And you don't have to feel like you're nothing. Like after this list, you can sit there and weep for a second like Mark did, and then you can...
Wasn't a second. A solid hour.
And then you can invite someone in to bring you tissues, and then let's move on and let's solve it from there.
I wish I had a video of the conversation that like happened after that where he was like, you good, bro?
And you're like, no.
He's like, I thought this is probably from his perspective. I'm going to really help him work on some of these areas that he's weak in.
I have specific examples that he can improve
And I was like,
on.
I just need you to tell me I did a good job. Like, this isn't helpful.
Also, I just feel like we can point this out from the story. If somebody asks you for feedback, you can do so kindly with compassion.
There's also the sandwich method, right?
You
share something good, you share something hard, and then you encourage them.
I hate that.
You do.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sandwich you now.
I know you're handling me.
It's just
like
to soften the blow. No,
just don't be a robot.
Yes.
No, I have those friends too that I'm just like, I have a friend who used to be a church executive pastor or executive assistant or whatever, and I'll text her, I'll be like, I can share 0 things, just pray. She's like, on it, great, love it.
Thank
you, friend.
In college, I worked at like a group home company, and one of the residents would come up to staff sometimes and just say, I'm having a tough time, pray for me. And so with my friends, I shared this story, and so that's just our phrase, like that will just like, I'm having a tough time, pray for me. And and it's just been now this thing in our whole life where we kind of like look fondly on it of like, no, like this adult just needed extra help and was like, I don't know how to ask for it, so I'm just gonna say, I'm having a tough time, please pray for me. Like,
trusted me enough to let me into that.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
that's cool.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I don't want you to question your faith.
No.
Like, I want you to question yourself.
Yes.
But
yes,
it's hard to explain. This is probably also a tension of of having confidence in your relationship with Jesus, but then also being somebody who like challenges yourself. I am going to use this illustration on Easter. It's part of the Easter sermon, but I'm going to share it because I shared it with both you guys yesterday because it just crushed my face. I was watching this movie Dune. Probably no one's seen this. I don't know. A few people. It's sci-fi. It's like supposed to be like new Star Wars kind of thing. It was a great movie. Really enjoyed it. But there's this moment where the protagonist, he's like a teenager, and he has the weight of what the kingdom is going to need from him when he takes over as the new king. And he's talking to his dad, and he says, Dad, what if I'm not the future of House Atreides? That's the name of their clan or whatever. And his dad says, by the way, this is Oscar Isaac with just a fantastic beard, just looking so dad-like, you know?
Yeah,
And he just looks at him and he says, a great man doesn't seek to lead, he is called to it. But if your answer is no, you'd still be the only thing I ever needed you to be, my son. Which, by the way, I was watching this by myself at my house during the day yesterday when my kids were at school, my wife was at work, or on Monday, and weeping. Because I want you to stop and say, like, there is a truth here where if you did nothing else, if all you did was just understand that you are loved by this God who created you, made you, you are a son, you are a daughter, that is enough. I hate the tension in that statement. Like, I hate it because I want to give you a cleaner way to look at this. I want to say, do this, 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 and this, and you're good.
Yeah.
Yep.
But the correct way to look at this is that you're already good. You're already loved. You're already accepted by God. He's already died for you. He did it for you specifically, personally.
Yep.
You're good. All you have to do is say, I'm in. I accept that. Like, I can't do it my own. I have no way to fix this problem. Jesus has fixed it for me. I receive that. I am a son. I am a daughter. You can live with that confidence. And then there's a whole other conversation. And I think that's really what we're talking about. I don't want you to question whether you are, I mean, I want you to, this is the hard part of it. I want you to question it, but I don't want to challenge your confidence in who you are in Christ. You are a son or daughter. You are loved. You've already been sacrificed for. You know, if that's all that happens in your relationship with Jesus, that's a shame.
Yep.
You missed out on what was possible and available in this life and, you know, in the next, because it does say that what we do here affects there too. Like, we store up treasures in heaven based on the eternal things we do now. But all that would be a shame. It still wouldn't change the fact that you're a son or daughter of the King, that you're loved, that you're fully accepted.
Yeah. It's real gray to, like, try and draw that line somewhere between we don't have to question our salvation, but the process of becoming more like Jesus and living more like him, we should probably question.
Be involved in.
Yeah. And not just let it happen.
Yeah. You can accept the salvation and who you are and where you're rooted, right?
Yeah.
But then it's just like the vine and the branches, right? Like, your root and your vine is in him, but then where are your branches coming from? What is coming out of you? What is demonstrating? And recently this is a side note, I just heard that someone, I can't remember where, maybe this was at Exponential, but, like, if you're a vine, you're still in Christ, even if you don't have any branches yet. Like,
well, the call is to remain or abide. Yeah. Meaning, like, I'm in, now I just stay.
And then keep seeking after him, branches will form, fruit will form.
If I just dig into him, then fruit will come out.
Yeah. We read, so at small group on Monday night, we read the last part of John in the Message version, which I don't always do the Message, but sometimes I really like the way that Eugene Peterson phrases
1 John
things.
3, you mean?
Yes, 1 John 3, sorry. Yep. And so I just wanted to read it, if that's okay. Yeah, okay. So starting at verse 18 through 24, it says, "My dear children, let's not just talk about love, let's practice real love. This is the only way we'll know we're living truly, living in God's reality. It's also the way to shut down debilitating self-criticism, even when there's something to it. For God is greater than our worried hearts and knows more about us than we do ourselves. And friends, once that's taken care of and we're no longer accusing or condemning ourselves, we're bold and free before God. We're able to stretch out our hands and receive what we asked for because we're doing what he said, doing what pleases him. Again, this is God's command to believe in his personally named Son, Jesus Christ. He told us to love each other in line with the original command. As we keep his commands, we live deeply and surely in him, and he lives in us. And this is how we experience his deep an abiding presence in us by the Spirit he gave us. Kind of speaks to what we've been
Yeah.
talking about.
I mean, I love Eugene Peterson so much. Talk about a pastor crush. I know. All of his books are incredible, too.
Yes,
I don't know if
yeah.
you ever read any of them.
Just one, I
You-
think.
if
Well, and
you're- the pastor with the ultimate pastor's heart is Eugene Peterson.
yeah.
Him and this guy. There's another guy who's got that same care, like, thing happening.
Shepherd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there's other intellectual pastors that I'm like, I want to listen to that and learn stuff. Like, these are the guys. I want to listen to that and learn how to, like, love people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so that's the tension. And I think it's generally good to challenge yourself, but to know who you are and, you know, and, you know, I think some people, you know, this would be a good way to maybe think this through. Like, what was the last, like, major spiritual breakthrough you had in your life?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Or when,
college?
yeah. And when was the last time you really felt the presence of God moving in you? Like, where you were shaken by it?
When was
Kind
the
of
last time you
yeah.
took a risk?
Huh?
You had the conversation that you didn't want to have. You walked across the room and talked to the person that you thought might be weird if you did.
Yeah.
You listened to the
Or
Spirit.
that you were mad at and you needed to reconcile with?
Yep. And when was the last time the conversation went there with a friend? Like, I can keep asking these questions all day long, and I think a lot of us would feel really uncomfortable with our answer,
Yeah.
if we're being honest. And yet we're like, no, we got this thing whipped. We got this thing figured out. It's like this, like, Holy Spirit spiritual journey thing. It don't stop.
Nope. There's no arrival.
No.
There's no, I'm there, I've got
No.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you think you have, come talk to us,
And
friend.
can we just talk about how crazy, like, the people that inspire me, and we've talked about somebodies on this podcast quite a bit, like, these people, like, retired in their, I don't know how to speculate their age. They're older. I know Social Security is already part of their lives.
After working for a while, they retired.
Yes.
And
And then
grandparents.
just last week
teenage grandkids.
decided to
Yeah.
go with their kids and their grandkids on a mission trip to Mexico.
Yeah.
At the end of a pandemic,
Yeah.
which, by the way, they went in the middle of the pandemic to also go to the same place and encourage the pastors there and go around and do, they literally went around and did, like, street ministry.
Yeah.
Like, just into villages and just prayed over people for
Yeah.
healing and encourage pastors. Please, Jesus, say that's true about me, like, in my older, retired age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, man, you know, you can still be pushed no matter where you're at. I don't know if I can do all the walking at this point, but, you know.
That's right. By then, they'll have, like, wheels for you.
Yes.
Oh,
You'll
I'll be
have-
hovering.
You'll be,
Oh.
It'll be so sick,
yeah. You'll be some, like, automatic Segway.
dude.
Yeah.
It'll be great.
I would turn them in right now, the legs, for a Segway that was, like, attached. 100%. No doubt.
Just don't take Segways into the same.
I'm going to need a few people come over and adjust my house a little bit.
A little bit.
It'll be fine.
A little bit.
Dan Booth, we got a project.
Challenge accepted.
All right. So we're going to wrap up here, but next week we will be back. Mark this weekend is taking a look at chapter 4,
Beginning of, yeah.
the beginning of chapter 4. We'll figure it out. I don't know. You'll preach and it'll end at some point, and
Testing the spirits.
yeah,
Ooh.
Yep.
it'll be a fun one. I don't think I have any other announcements.
you were thinking about announcements.
I was trying to think
That's
if
where
there
we
was
go to.
anything else I
Do I
needed to
need to tell
share.
these people anything else?
This is 100% my brain all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
Like, anything else I need to tell you?
Yes.
Yeah. Appreciate your prayers. Doing better every day now. I'm beyond the pain medication and beyond the worst of it. It was pretty painful the first couple days. I was pretty immobile, which was brutal. But doing okay now. So thanks for that.
If you
And,
see him on Sunday and he's not preaching, bring him a chair. That'd be great. Tell him to sit down.
And bring him a second chair so he puts his foot up.
And you can pray for Pastor Aaron to just be full of energy when he comes back,
Yeah,
just to be
just
rested.
Rest, and
Yep.
even though vacation with kids, they're not always restful, but just some good time for him.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Cool. And thank you to Caitlyn.
Yes.
Yes.
thank you,
Pastor Caitlyn.
Pastor Caitlyn, we love you. You're the best.
Great job.
Come back anytime you want. I'll kick Mark off the stage.
I've already told her we're inviting her back a couple times a year. So
Great.
anyways.
Be
We love
ready.
it. All right. You guys have a good day, and we will see you on Sunday.